Welcome, Pisces. On the 3rd of March, a total lunar eclipse in the practical Virgo creates a dynamic backdrop of energy for us all for the following 6 months. Eclipses traditionally and historically were portents of big charged energy and big events. How will things play out for you over the next 6 months? We can think about the energy of a Virgo lunation in isolation, but we're going to miss a lot of detail. On the screen is the event chart from a Pisces perspective. I'm going to unpack this for you to give you an understanding of what you can expect in terms of your energy, your finances, your work, and your relationships. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundel. A very warm welcome. If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, please do so now and help it to continue to thrive. Now, over the last few years, beginning on the 18th of September 2024, the new eclipse series that we're in began in your zodiac sign. The moon was conjunct your shimmering co-ruler of Neptune. That was brilliant if you're a creative. Your imagination may have really been animated in the following 6 months. You may also have had some very vivid dreams. But in residence too was the more restrictive, conservative energies of Saturn, asking you not to spread yourself too thinly. Now, the mirror eclipse to that one was in your opposite sign of Virgo. But for you, that's very much about relationships, whereas the eclipse in your sign is about your identity, but also your need to express your individual flair. So we've had an oscillation between the two signs ever since then. This is number 5. We've got two more, the 28th of August and the final one on the 20th of February next year. So that oscillation has perhaps caused some tension between what you want as an individual and how you can connect to others. But also on the 17th of February this year, we had a new eclipse series starting in the sign of Aquarius, which is logical. It's detached and it's about our higher purpose. But you also have the tiny bit influential Pluto there full time since November 2024, potentially stirring up some very deep psychological energies. And that eclipse may have amplified those too. So over the next 6 months, we have to mesh the two energies together. So on one hand, this eclipse in Virgo is about relationships for you and balancing what you need as an individual, but it could also evoke some very powerful, not previously seen or conscious energies that comes into that arena between the balance of what you need and need to express and how you make those connections. So that's the big picture context. Also, just to say, this is known as a blood moon. To understand the astronomical context of that and also the astronomy of eclipses in general in terms of an illustration, the mythology of a Virgo eclipse, the exact timings of where this event occurs around the world. Also, more about Zosma, the fixed star, which is very close to the position of the moon. Zosma has a reputation for being somewhat melancholic, but also very sensitive. And it's all about that juggle between the Piscean energy, your energy, which is watery and emotional, and the dry, cool, earthy energy of the position of the moon. So I go into more detail about Zosma as well. I also give you the opportunity to make your way through the workbook, and that will help you to navigate the next 6 months as well as possible. But on the screen is the event chart. So there's the moon, 12:53, the sun, 12:53. Now, you've just had Mars, the planet of desire, thrust, and action, pitch up in your sign. That's a really good news story, Pisces, because over the previous 6 weeks, and particularly over the last week, you may have felt really quite up and down at times, especially when Mars initially passed over uh, Pluto, and that may have really been quite triggering. But recently, Mars has been in a square with the restless vibe of Uranus. So if you have found yourself being a little bit triggered by things, it wouldn't be a complete surprise. But Mars moving into your own sign helps to bring you into the present. It's also good for physical energy too and focus. But you've also got Mercury, the ruler of the sign of Virgo, in residence but in retrograde. And that's important because first house energy, particularly with Mars in occupation, is very much about actualizing that individual talent you've got, being in touch with what makes you unique and brilliant. But what I will say is because the moon is opposite, the moon in the seventh house often brings harmony. It's a good place to have the moon in a natal chart, for example. People with the moon in the seventh house lean into the needs of other people very skillfully. But the moon in the precise Virgo can be very much about those details, understandably. But it's also just into the second decan of Virgo, which is subruled by the rather reserved energies and cool energies of Saturn. And also, because of that fixed start Zosma being very close, if there is a relationship at the moment, and it doesn't have to be a romantic one, could be a friendship, a family member, a neighbor, where you don't feel there is a good interaction between you feeling you can truly be your authentic self and them being attentive and attuned to what you need in terms of the connection between you, it's going to show up over the next 6 months. Because Virgo can be, of course, a little bit of a perfectionist, but it also can be very functional in a positive way. So if there is someone you want to get on with, but it's not necessarily a romantic relationship, small but important and thoughtful gestures, I'll make you a coffee, say at work, I'll cover that task. Those things can be very appreciated to create harmony and goodwill, which is very much the moon in the seventh house. But what I would say is that Jupiter, your traditional ruler, is forging a very uplifting support to the moon. Jupiter may be in retrograde through to the 11th of March. Please look out for my deep dive on that. But it is exalted in the water sign of Cancer. But in the fifth house, although it has been affected quite a lot since it moved there in May last year by the restrictive Saturn, it has been offering glimpses of a positivity and a warmth because it is also about fortune for its rulership of Sagittarius. But that's saying if there is someone you really like and you're prepared to give and take a bit, both of you, there is good things that are possible. Also, Jupiter links back to the Sun in an almost perfect trine, one of astrology's most lucky influences. The Sun and Jupiter, Jupiter's abundance, Jupiter's faith, Jupiter's confidence and growth. The Sun, the innate core of who we all are, the king of the heavens, the moon being the queen. But we also have Venus in your zodiac sign, which is in her exaltation. And that's been probably very good for you over the last few weeks, giving you the confidence to try some different looks as far as your personal appearance. But Venus is in a very bright link with Uranus. So if you're not in a relationship at the moment, but you do encounter someone who's buoyant, warm, affectionate, fun, but also a good listener and sensitive, this can be a very helpful lunar eclipse for you. What can be more challenging is if you're linking with this with someone at the moment who doesn't share your values or who is not very in tune with you psychologically. And that comes from the position of Pluto linking to Saturn in your second house, very much about values. So if money's an issue in an existing relationship, or you don't really feel you can trust someone, or you're not sure if you can really rely on them, or it's not very mutual, the give and take, that solar eclipse which occurred in Aquarius is still raking up and quite unexpectedly some very restless energies. And to get things on a more even keel is what integrating the energies of this eclipse is really going to be about for you personally. But I do feel, as far as But I do feel, as far as your finances are concerned, even if you are somewhat conservative over the next 6 months, if you're an inventive, creative Pisces, which is often the case, there's a lot to go for there. It's just you're probably putting in place things that you've been planning or researching since the start of the year. And that may take a little while to really gain traction. You could gain significantly from the total solar eclipse in Leo on the 12th of August in terms of your physical energy enthusiasm, especially if you're providing a service. And that can see in the second half of the year, you feel stronger and more dynamic. But at the moment, I think it's getting something going. And therefore, Saturn in the second house may see your finances a little on the lean side. But as far as your energy is concerned, there's a lot to like, particularly with Mars having just pitched up in Pisces. With Mercury in a retrograde, maybe some of the things you start within the 6 months may have to pause, be refined, and go again. That's understandable. But I really like the sun's link to Jupiter. And I think if you show confidence at the moment and there is someone you're attracted to, and you do feel there's that mutual charisma and chemistry, then really go for it in a positive way. Pisces, to understand what the next month holds of March for you, please click on the link to the left of the screen where you can watch your deep dive. On the right, you can download that fabulous total lunar eclipse guide. If you'd like to work with me one-to-one, please see the testimonials below. If you'd like to take advantage of my unique combination reports, you can order your 12-month forecast, but also get your life roadmap report. That gives you searing insights into the patterns that are played out in your life so far. Everyone is totally individual to the person it's produced for. At the checkout, please apply Astro 26 and you'll get 50% off. If you'd like to understand your draconic, soul, or karmic journey, if you go to the checkout, you can order the same combination but apply Draco 26 and get 50% off.